Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live on a Thursday evening, right after Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens are going to get a victory over the Cincinnati Bengals, which does help the Los Angeles Chargers in their playoff push. What a crazy ending that was. So we had to wait for a little bit. We wanted to see what was happening, and it is what it is. So, joining me as always tonight is my guy Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Doing well, and I feel good that we spent a good amount this week talking about how the offense needs to get going and to really make sure they sustain drives and finish drives with touchdowns, not go 3 and out so quickly, because these two teams, they're playing them the next few weeks. Not that the Ravens and the Bengals have the same defense that the Chargers do, which is insane to say, but Jamar Chase can just, get 250 and 3 touchdowns at any point.
Yeah.
So if you need to score, learn to sustain drives, and hopefully they can do that this week against the Titans, which is way less interesting than the Bengals or Ravens, but here we are.
Yeah, we're going to dive into the Titans. Sneaky good defense, not so good on offense, but we'll talk about it. But yeah, people in some of our comments and on Twitter were saying like, oh, like you guys are too negative, like the team is still winning. And like, yes, they are still winning, and we're very pleased with that, but we're trying to get the Chargers to a point where they can actually compete with these kind of teams. So, we'll see what happens this week with the Titans. One little thing about the Chargers and the Ravens defense, because obviously they're very intertwined, they're connected, right? Along with like the Seahawks defense, etc. Mike Sando was writing about this specifically, and the Chargers in total EPA gained on defense have had the biggest increase from 2023 to 2024. That's not a huge surprise. Obviously, we've been watching the team. We know we've seen it. But the Ravens have actually had the biggest decrease in total EPA gained from 2023 to 2024. So they've had some injuries and things like that. Their entire defensive coaching staff is elsewhere now. So it kind of makes sense as well. But I thought that was a surprise to read it put that way. I think they're 32nd in pass defense in EPA per play. So it's not a good unit. Trading for Tre'Davious White is probably not going to solve much. And then tonight they potentially lost Kyle Hamilton. So, some tough struggles for the Baltimore Ravens. Makes the Chargers game a little bit more interesting, I think, because I've been kind of penciling it in as a loss right now. But the Ravens can't really stop anybody either.
No, and again, I think some of the discourse will be, well, the Ravens defense sucks. They couldn't stop the Bengals. Like, yes, that's correct. I love Vlad McConkey. He's not Jamar Chase. Like, there are some things that the Bengals have.
Yeah.
The Chargers don't. But still, I think the Chargers tackles are certainly better. I think that they, in theory, should have a better offensive line. So we'll see. But yeah, should be an interesting couple of games. But we'll get to this game that we got to talk about.
Yeah. So first and foremost, the Chargers do have a matchup with the Tennessee Titans. Crucial stretch for the Chargers, and Jim Harbaugh talking about it as only Jim Harbaugh could. The middle 8 of the season is upon them, and this is a 3-game home stretch where some difficult matchups, but some matchups that they should win if they are really trying to make a legitimate playoff push. So again, the Bengals losing today does help the Chargers. The Bengals heading into this week actually had a better chance of making the playoffs than the Denver Broncos did. So this obviously pushes them down a bit from today. So I believe they're 4-6. Chargers are 5-3, obviously. All right. As we do every single Thursday, we do have to bring up some of the injury news. The Chargers continue to have to put players on injury reserve right now. The latest list includes wide receiver Simi Fehoko and linebacker Junior Colson. Simi Fehoko, it is an elbow injury. The way that he was talking about it on his TikTok makes it seem like it was probably a dislocated elbow. He did say that his elbow bone actually pierced through his skin. So not a fun injury for Mr. Simi Fehoko. It is not going to require surgery, apparently. And he is expecting to be back in 6 weeks-ish. And so we'll see what happens. Then the Chargers have made some moves at the wide receiver position. Jalen Reagor, as expected, is going to take his spot on the roster. And so we'll kind of see what that looks like. And DJ Chark, in other injury news, is off the injury report. So it's been this up and down but kind of battle with the wide receiver position and the health, and you lose a guy, you get a guy back, and now you get DJ Chark back off the injury report. Jalen Reagor is active, and Simi Fehoko has a dislocated elbow and is on injury reserve.
Yeah, bummer there. I hate that the Chargers maybe were starting to find some momentum with the receiver room, and then they lose some guys. Not that Simi Fehoko was a huge contributor, but nice to have had him out there at minimum on special teams. So
yeah,
just rotating guys. That's the story of their injury report this year. We finally get a guy back. This guy goes away. This guy comes back. Like you said, just like, plugging holes. Oh, we got that one. New leak. Just new things for Ben Herbert to figure out. Thankfully, it's been manageable. DJ Chark obviously on IR for longer than expected, I guess.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been a season ending here for the most part. So not too bad there. For me, the issue is obviously, and the concern is the defense, with Junior Colson going on IR and then Khalil Mack not practicing with a groin injury.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Khalil because I think this is, if he is able to play, it's a juicy matchup. So Khalil said after the game that he was going to be fine. He was like, just need a couple of needles and I'll be good, which is a hilarious response. The big bummer obviously is Junior Colson, and I like, people have been doing like draft grades, and they're trying to like talk about Junior Colson's and his rookie season. I don't feel like we really got any true assessment of Junior Colson. We basically only got one full game of his, which was week 1 against the Raiders. And then during the Panthers game, he hurts his hamstring injury, and then they worked him back slowly. And then this past Sunday was going to be like his first true game, like back in the rotation. And he hurt his ankle, I think on like his second snap of the game. Mm-hmm. And now he's going on injury reserve. So it's just a real bummer. I mean, we obviously had tremendously high expectations for Junior's rookie season, and I'm not losing the faith. I still think he's going to be a really good player in this league. I still think his evaluation is going to hold true. But, we talked a bit about Deion Henley and how linebacker can just be kind of a difficult position to transition to in the NFL. Well, things that make it more difficult are you get your appendix removed in training camp, you have a hamstring injury, and now you have an ankle injury on injury reserve. So he is expected to return later on in the season, according to Jim Harbaugh, but it's just tough, man. Like, he's had nothing but injuries and time away from the team and time away from football, and he needs these reps to get better. And unfortunately, he has not had the opportunity to get out there very much this season.
Yeah, really unfortunate. Appendicitis, that just was a crusher right there. Again, blessing in disguise because you see Deion Henley, but still a crusher for his prospects nonetheless. The good news is, and I think this is it's the perfect situation to be in. Deion Henley played 54 defensive snaps last year. Colson's already played twice as many snaps this year, and frankly, he was a better linebacker prospect, in my opinion. And of course, like, the Chargers felt that way. Navarro Bowman basically felt that way as the LB1 in this class. So I'm not worried about him, but I am bummed that he doesn't get to get more out of this season than we'd like to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And, next offseason, Troy Dye and Denzel Perryman are going to be free agents. They might bring back Dye at this point because he's been a fantastic special teams player, good depth. But I do kind of expect them to hand the linebacker 2 reins over to Junior, right? Like, he'll have the full offseason as that guy next to Deion. He'll get a lot of offseason reps, hopefully, and be able to kind of make that year 2 leap that Deion is doing right now. The last injury thing that we need to touch on is the opening of the 21-day window for Gus Edwards. It kind of sounds like he has a pretty good chance of playing this week. He said that he is 100% and he's ready to rock, basically. The Chargers, because of the injuries and the injury reserve news, they are keeping 2 roster spots open. So that can come in a variety of ways. Obviously, they played this past Sunday with 52 roster spots. They didn't ever actually fill that 53rd spot, which is, I didn't know you could do that. But so it seems like they're saving a spot on the roster for Gus Edwards. And I know the opening season wasn't great, but I do think there's a role here for Gus Edwards to maybe alleviate some things from J.K. Dobbins if he plays.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers need anybody to alleviate. J.K. Dobbins took a rest day this week. I mean, they are trying to keep him fresher for the rest of the season, obviously, and looking into the postseason, I'm sure. So anyone being able to carry any bit of load would be great. That was kind of the case with Edwards, but then they would suddenly just play him for one snap or one rushing attempt. So we'll see how much he can work back into things. The high ankle sprain that he suffered from, the assumption, I don't know if it was said specifically, but that was an in-season issue, not something that carried over from the offseason. Well,
we don't really know. We don't really know
during the season. Yeah.
For anybody who's not been like paying super close attention, there was like a moment in training camp where Jim Harbaugh said that Gus Edwards had off-season surgery of some kind. They never specified what injury. And then like the next day he backtracked and was like, no, I misspoke. Like that wasn't actually the case. And then he missed the bulk of training camp. And then I don't remember him ever actually like getting injured in a game. Like I could be wrong, but I don't remember him like. Yeah, I don't remember like any specific moment where he was being looked at the trainers during a game or like he got rolled up on. And then all of a sudden he wasn't practicing and then injury reserve. So foggy injury details has kind of become Jim Harbaugh's thing. It was like that way at Michigan. And so we don't really know any specifics about Gus Edwards' injury, but like I said, it sounds like he has a good chance of playing this week.
Yeah, which is good. I'm guessing that means Vidal is now inactive, so there went that dream. But whatever it takes, if Gus Edwards' return to full form is what gets this rushing attack tier up from being one of the worst in the league, hey, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's dive into the Tennessee Titans matchup in Week 10. I can't believe we're already in Week 10. College football season's like a few weeks away from ending. It's kind of crazy to me. We're here on November 7th, so a big matchup for the Chargers. Again, kind of another game where if we expect them to be a playoff contender, a true playoff contender, this is a game that they should win. Vegas thinks so. Last time I checked, the Chargers were favored by 8.5, which is a pretty significant margin. Titans obviously coming off a win last week, but it had been a minute up until that win. So they were on a bit of a losing streak. So as we do every single week, we'll start with kind of the coach's corner here. We're trying to find some pieces of data or information or film that are intriguing to us about this upcoming coaching matchup. So for you, Tyler, where are you looking towards from a coaching standpoint this week?
Yeah, I'm looking at the run game. And if Gus Edwards returns and you have Haskins under, it's been played several games, maybe Vidal is active too. Dobbins at least took a step forward last week after kind of having a rough stretch there. Your tackles are healthy. We'll see about Trey Pipkins, but you basically have what you want out there for better or worse. The run game has not been great. What is Greg Roman going to do to spark that run game? Because at this point, after this week, and even this week is important, especially with an AFC win against a quote-unquote easier game, easier opponent, the playoffs almost start. Like there's a mini playoffs that are about to happen. The Bengals, the Ravens, the Falcons, the Chiefs, the Bucks, and then Denver, New England, Vegas. But still, you got to win those games, AFC games. There's a bit of a mini playoff push. We talked about after the game and then in our review of the film that there were just several things not working for this team in the rushing attack. And it almost felt like either the identity didn't fit or they didn't have the right players to fit this identity, this scheme, whatever. Everything was just a little bit off. It really felt like they didn't have the horses to run what they wanted. Does that change this week? I don't know how much can change so quickly. And this is not an easy front to run against. This is not a bad defense by any means. This is not, I don't know, they did okay against the Browns, but it's not the Saints. It's not the Cardinals. So how do they get things going this week? Because this is kind of it. If you can't figure it out this week and you just are going to stick with this the rest of the way, the game against the Bengals, the game against the Ravens, the game against the Falcons, the game against the Chiefs, it's going to get more difficult. So this is kind of it. So I want to see how Greg Roman changes things, if at all, to get this thing going.
Okay, so apparently the spread is Chargers minus 7.5 now. So it's gone down a point. But the Bengals, for what it's worth, the run defense there is actually pretty dang bad. It's just the game script that scares me in that particular game. Because as we just saw, the Bengals are very capable of hanging 35 on anybody at this point in time. So this upcoming matchup with the Tennessee Titans, the run defense is very, very good. And I'm going to talk about that and what keeps us up at night later. You mentioned the front. Obviously, Chargers fans are familiar with Sebastian Joseph Day. He is kind of playing more like the first season of Sebastian Joseph Day and the Rams version of Sebastian Joseph Day than 2023 version of Sebastian Joseph Day, who the Chargers cut. So there's him, and then obviously Jeffery Simmons is the big name. But then Tavondre Sweat, who had some character concerns, but it seems like he's completely locked in Tennessee. He's playing pretty well as well. So this is it's a big challenge. And then obviously you have Arden Key and Harold Landry, who are good players. So this is a defense for the Titans that's pretty good from a statistical standpoint. It's like the only thing that's been keeping them in games so far because the offense is just kind of a mess. So I think highlighting the run game and what I'm looking forward to also is probably the right place to start.
Yeah, I hope it improves.
Yeah. So the other thing I think worth watching from a coaching standpoint, and Greg Roman spoke about this today, is the pass protection plan to keep Justin Herbert clean. And when I looked at these numbers and compared them to previous seasons, I was not very happy. And we've talked a lot about the pass protection unit over the last few days, but so far this season, Justin Herbert has been sacked 21 times. He is on pace to be sacked 44 times, which would be the most in his career if that holds true. Now, he did just get sacked 6 times against the Browns, kind of inflates things, but 21 sacks in 8 games is far too many. Justin Herbert, traditionally speaking, has been a pressure to sack conversion rate quarterback around 12 to 14%. Right now, he's at 26%, which is significantly higher than what we're accustomed to seeing from Justin Herbert. And some of it is his fault, like a very small amount. I would say he has taken at least 1 sack where I was like, man, Justin, like you could have done, a better job. You could have thrown the ball away. But it's not just the sacks. He has also been just generally hit more often than he has previously as well. He has been hit 16 times. So meaning, he was able to get the ball off. He was able to do something else. He was hit after the throw or hit while throwing. So 21 sacks, 16 hits. Both of those are on pace to be career highs. Justin Herbert is being hit way too often. I think a large portion of it is the interior pass blocking trio. And Greg Roman did acknowledge that they are not nearly playing as well as they need to be. The other part of it, looking back at like the film and like the data, they're not really giving Herbert a safety outlet as often as I would like either. And so the issues with how they're kind of protecting is that sometimes they'll keep an extra guy in, and instead of having that guy stay in and then release for it to be a check down, he just stays in because it's usually Scott Matlock or Eric Tomlinson or guys who are not really like super trustworthy pass catchers. So from a coaching standpoint, what does that look like? You've got to give Herbert a hot read. You've got to give Herbert a more secure check down option. And then obviously, like from the interior, we've talked about it. The personnel is probably not changing unless somebody gets injured, and Pipkins might potentially miss. We'll see what happens there. Mm-hmm. But you've got to find ways to take pressure off of the interior because the Chargers right now are facing stunts at the second highest rate in the league, and they are giving up pressures on those stunts at the highest rate in the league. So it's what we see on tape is what we are. It is backed up by the numbers. Justin Herbert is being hit too much. And I think the main areas are the interior not being able to protect against stunts. And then they're not really baking in any hot reads to give Justin Herbert a quick outlet when pressure does happen.
It's so frustrating because I feel like this was our week 3, 4, bye, and then 6, 7, 8 topic with this offensive line and them needing an outlet on third down. I think we spent a good amount of time talking about these guys, and the fact that it's only gotten worse, it's remained the same is very frustrating. And this is definitely not the week you want to be, poorly executing in the interior. I think against the Browns, there's at least one Dobbins catch, if not 2, where he was a nice safety outlet in the flat, and it picked up 7, 8, 9 yards a couple of times. And it's frustrating to see that so rare. I understand that Dobbins is not Austin Eckler as a pass catching back, but not baking those things in for Herbert, I think maybe has led to some of these issues. I believe it has led to some of these issues, especially for a quarterback who has had Eckler for so long.
Yeah.
And to be able to 130 times in a year versus what feels like once or twice a game now.
Yeah.
It's just very different. Not being able to bake that in for him is frustrating. I get the play action game and trying to get the chunk plays, and the chunk plays are great, but not having that safety outlet is frustrating. And then this interior, I mean, this is week 10. I know Manyweather said 6 to 10 weeks. This would be the 9th one they've had together. Sort of. There have been injuries, but like this is kind of it, guys. You cannot go face these great teams in the next couple of weeks and just still have these same issues.
Yeah. So again, this week they play Jeffery Simmons. Next week they play BJ Hill, who's a great defensive tackle. The week after that, it's Nnamdi Madueke and Travis Jones and that crew. And then it's Chris Jones and that crew. And then it's Zach Allen again. And then it's et cetera. That is Grady Jarrett. It doesn't get any easier. And so I think the time of we're just going to trust them to figure it out has passed. You have to start scheming up ways for them to, have that person in. And I'm not saying you can't keep a 6th person in. You just have to kind of adjust your route concepts, because I feel like a lot of times their third down concepts are kind of pushing down the field, which I generally kind of agree with. But now you've just got to bake somebody, a crosser, a slant, somebody running short. And if you don't get the first down, I don't really care. I would just rather see Justin Herbert stay clean and protected, as opposed to getting hit while he throws and converting a 3rd and 12. Like he's got to stay clean. Otherwise, this offense just can't really work. It's more valuable to keep him clean than it is to convert a first down, which is kind of crazy to say out loud. But the amount of times that he is being hit is just not sustainable when you get into these games down the stretch of the season where you're trying to win, where if you're trying to be in a shootout against the Bengals or a shootout against the Ravens, and a sack on 3rd down, a hit on 3rd down can just derail a drive. And then suddenly you're down 2 scores instead of 1 score. And it just can kind of, steamroll from there. So I need to see some more adjustments. I'm kind of done just waiting and seeing for them to try and figure it out. And this is why you pay a guy like Mike Devlin. This is why you establish an offensive line culture, is to make these adjustments and protect your franchise quarterback.
Do you think that their offense against the Browns, the pass game in particular, took too long given who was across from them?
Yeah, there were some long developing plays. There
was one where I think the first sack Garrett had against Slater, but it was like fake flip to Dobbins.
Yes, it was like a play action thing. There was a motion. Yeah, it was weird. And Slater, watching that play, like it seemed like he was expecting like to have help on the inside, or I don't know, because I'm never used to seeing Rashawn lose instantly like that. And Myles Garrett is a freak, but the second sack was more just like, oh, he just turned a corner on me. And Justin also couldn't step up in the pocket. The first sack was like Myles just won instantly right off the line. So it was, I'm a little curious about like what Rashawn was expecting from a pass protection scheme standpoint on that one.
Yeah, they pulled what's his name, Scott Matlock, or the other tight end, away from Garrett so many times. I found that very surprising.
Yeah. The Chargers do like to have, they'll have Disley or Matlock like pull across formation and block the opposing edge rusher. Yeah, which sometimes can be effective. But Will Disley also got kind of threw in Justin Herbert's lap this week.
Yes, so he did. Yeah.
All right. So a lot of focus on the offense for the coaching standpoint. In terms of what we are excited about, if Khalil Mack can play this week, I think this has a real potential to be a big time Khalil Mack explosive output. I went back and looked at this, and I thought it was interesting. If you look at his pace for this season, if it carries out, and the numbers that he would have put up for the Chargers across 3 seasons are basically identical to what he was doing in Chicago prior to the foot injury, which is kind of crazy considering like all of the washed allegations. And this is a player, a power rush player in his 30s traditionally at this point has started to decline. Like it's just kind of what we see from most players in his position. But he has basically maintained his presence just even keel across the way. And he's still one of the best run defending edge rushers in the league. That has been a treat to watch. Him and Thule just wreck shop every single week. It's just fantastic. I love watching the run defense tape from the edge rushers. Well, this week, they're playing a Titans offensive line where Khalil will do the bulk of his rushing against the left tackle, who is J.C. Latham, who we liked in the draft, but he, unlike Joe Alt, is pretty struggling from a pass protection standpoint. His pass blocking efficiency rating is 96.0 right now, which is bottom third of all offensive tackles in the league. It's actually the best mark on his team, though. So they have played 4 different right tackles, and all 4 of them have lower pass blocking efficiencies than 96, which is not very good. They don't really know who's going to be playing at right tackle this week. So this could be a big edge rusher game in general. But specifically with Khalil, I feel like one of these games has just kind of been brewing for him to just like come out and have a dominant performance. Now, again, he's not 100% healthy. We don't know for sure if he's going to play or not. But if he plays, I think this has a 9 pressure, 3 sack, forced fumble kind of performance written all over it. And if he doesn't play, I think Thule, Joey, and Bud can have a good enough game this week against a very poor Titans tackle group.
Yeah, I mean, this was Thule's coming out party, his rookie season. You know, he had like 5 snaps against the Dolphins, and then had like 7 pressures and something ridiculous against the Titans, and that just carried over for at least the early part of the season. So these guys can win when they play it together. I don't know how much they're playing, but yes, I would love the Khalil Mack explosion game. He's obviously had a couple. He'll play the Raiders again, so I'm sure that'll pop up there too. Yeah. But it would be nice. Like, he's been having a really good season, but you really want that, like, that 8 pressure, 9 pressure kind of game, 2 sacks, multiple run stops, that sort of thing. He's been good. He's been great. Honestly, he's been great. But you also want to see him rewarded with a bit of like an explosion game. What'd you make of Joey, since we're talking about edge rushers? Yeah, basically playing the same number of snaps as he did the previous week, despite saying that he was going to play more. I don't know if he said that or Harbaugh said that.
I think it was just kind of situation where Thule was kind of cooking a little bit. Khalil was playing good. I think he should play more this week. If Khalil can't play, then he will play more this week. For what it's worth, Joey's pass rush win rate was like 30% against the Browns. So I thought he had a couple good moves. I thought he had he went on a stunt. He had a good long arm moment. Mm-hmm. He looked more like Joey, not 100% close to it yet, but he looked better. I think it's been great to see the fact that even just his presence out there can take pressure off of the other players. Like Morgan Fox and Thule's, their 2 best games of the season have been the last 2 weeks. Good point. And I think that's not really a coincidence, because Joey is taking more double teams away from everybody else. So, he looked a little bit better, but I think this week we'll see him play, at another step higher this week, because he's just been healthier from the injury. Yeah, he was almost an unsung hero for me when we talked about that, because you could see just a little bit more. I wanted more, more effect on the game to call him an unsung hero, but I could see it. It just didn't feel like the upper body was there. I just didn't feel like he had the same legs that he usually does. Yeah, that I think we're getting really close to. Could be this week, if not, definitely the Bengals week, which is perfect timing. Yeah, perfect timing. So hopefully Khalil plays. If he doesn't, I don't think it's necessarily like a huge deal. Like, I would much rather have him play the next few weeks if missing this week means he can get fully healthy from this potential groin injury. So we'll see what happens. All right, Tyler, what are you most excited to watch this week? Well, unless I get hoodwinked like the social media team and all of us did, I'm excited to see DJ Chark make his debut. It's been a very long time since we saw DJ Chark really do anything with the Chargers. But if we flash all the way back to training camp, he was like their wide receiver 1. Like, he was very involved, explosive plays, great in the red zone. They had a lot of plans for him. And then everything derailed.
Now, I don't know how full he's going to be. He is not on the injury report, but that's like conditioning this, working back into it that. But I'm very excited to see what is it that you wanted to do with DJ Chark this season. Most Chargers fans were head over heels for DJ Chark. And, he's with this scheme that's going to fit him, and he's with Herbert and all that. Awesome. Now I want to see it. Okay, what does this look like? What does it look like? I don't think Snead's even playing this week. So this Titans secondary, like they're not like awful, but they can be beat. DJ Chark, I'd love to see what the heck this guy is. Does he exist? I'm pretty sure he does. So I would love to see what DJ Chark can do this week for the Chargers.
Yeah, the Chargers receiver room, it's a pretty interesting group right now because Ladd is really the only like short to intermediate guy that can win consistently. But then you have these other guys who all kind of work vertically. DJ Chark, that's his thing. Joshua Palmer's best attribute, I would say, is downfield ball tracking. Quentin Johnson has been able to get downfield a lot more this season. And then Jalen Rigor, who's going to be at least kind of involved, he can get downfield as well. So it's an interesting group. DJ Chark's involvement is going to be, I think it'll have an effect on a few things. I do think like his vertical presence, it will help the run game a bit. And then, Justin having a jump ball guy, I think could help the pressure a little bit also, because then, he can just kind of trust it and just chuck that thing to DJ Chark. So I'm curious to see just overall effect. Does he play a ton, or is Quentin and Ladd, like, are their roles kind of secure? And really kind of what effect DJ Chark can have is such an interesting storyline.
Yeah, I mean, even Simi Fehoko, who can do some of the things and is pretty athletic as he is, he had a heck of a catch this year, so I won't take that away from him. That was a great catch.
Yeah.
But not quite that same guy, not quite that same speed profile. We'll see what DJ Chark even is after all these injuries, because he's had one every like 5 games, it feels like, in his career, unfortunately. So yeah, whatever he brings to this offense, great. I'm all for it. If he's the new sacrificial X, cool.
Yeah. I think that will kind of be his role, and we'll see how many targets he'll get. All right, let's get to the other side of the coin here of what is keeping us up at night. Why don't you kick us off here? What's your main concern? I think we might be on the same page, but
Steven, just say it, man. It's for both of us.
It's Jeffery Simmons, man. And also by extension, I do want to talk about T'Vondre Sweat as well, because I heard some statistics from today or saw some stats that are kind of crazy. But Jeffery Simmons has not been like his most dominant self, but he is 6th among defensive tackles in pass rush productivity rating. He is 15th in pass rush win rate. He's got a ton of pressures. I think he was 8th in that last time I saw. So he can definitely be he can be a player that can wreck a game plan. And we saw this the last time they played, where the Chargers are driving to potentially take the lead, and then they get into the red zone, and Jeffery Simmons has a sack, a hit, and then a tackle for loss, like back to back to back. And the Chargers had to kick a field goal to tie the game. And then the Titans went down and won the game after that. So we've seen what Jeffery Simmons can do up close a few times now. And he has the potential to really just wreck this game. And, Myles Garrett, it looked like he was going to do that early. The Chargers, I think, handled that a little bit better going forward. I don't know how much confidence people have in this interior offensive line to keep Jeffery Simmons at bay at this current moment.
Based on the chat, let's see, Bozeman keeps you up at night. Zion Johnson keeps you up at night. Simmons is going to eat. Iowa keeps me up at night. Interior offensive lines, the gate entry to Herbert. So yeah, not a lot of confidence, I would say. We don't have the same kind of confidence. I watched this interior group give up 10 pressures and 2 sacks to LJ Collier, Dante Stills, and Naquan Jones, respectfully to all of them, who are way more athletic than I'll ever be, not Jeffery Simmons. So, yeah, whatever Simmons' numbers have been, they're going to go up this week. It is keeping me up at night. It is basically the thing that keeps me up every night. 1, because of all the great defensive tackles in the league, and 2, the Chargers interior, which might be starting Sam Mustipher. Yay.
Yes, and if Sam Mustipher is starting this week, please, for the love of God, don't let him be one-on-one against Jeffery Simmons the way that you did Chris Jones. Like this time around, the Chargers will have their actual offensive tackles. So
Yes, true.
that's a big thing. But the Chiefs isolated Chris Jones against Sam Mustipher like 6 or 7 times, and it went exactly how everybody thought it would, and they just kept on doing it. And I'm like, sitting there watching the tape, I'm like, again, you're just letting him rush again against Sam Mustipher one-on-one. Granted, the Chiefs have I would say a better edge rusher group and things like that, but man, like I don't really care about the other players. Like, just double team Jeffery Simmons all game long and slide protection that way. And the Chargers have not done a super good job of sliding protections to the right direction. Sometimes they'll leave the best player one-on-one against a guy like Sam Mustipher, or there was a time where Max Crosby got a one-on-one against Eric Tomlinson. Like, what are we doing? So yeah, Jeffery Simmons, great player, one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He can wreck this game if they let him. And if Trey is not playing, they gotta just double team him the entire game.
Yep.
I think even if Trey is playing, you probably should double team him every game.
Probably, yeah.
Getting to the Tavondre Sweat thing, he's not playing a ton. Sebastian Joseph Day is their starter, but Tavondre Sweat, obviously a very large human being. I actually saw this stat. So overall, the Titans in EPA per rush are 12th in success rate. They're 10th. But when Tavondre Sweat is on the field, they are 4th in EPA per rush and 3rd in success rate. So Tavondre Sweat is doing what we all knew Tavondre Sweat could do, which is defend the run, take up blocks, set the line of scrimmage at a really high level. Now that we know that he's locked into that specific team, his impact is really shining bright. And the Titans linebackers, including Kenneth Murray, are kind of just, they stay clean when Tavondre Sweat is out there, and they can go out and they can fly around and chase the football. And that's been a real thing that works for them. So the Chargers, I mentioned this on Tuesday, their weakness has been kind of the interior gap power scheme concepts. Mm-hmm. When Tavondre Sweat is out there, I'm not really interested in doing that. If you're going to run when Sweat is in, I think you probably got to get to some, try and push the edge run concepts. Let's get some guys on the move. Let's, try and run away from Tavondre Sweat as much as possible. So this is definitely a Jeffery Simmons segment, but Tavondre Sweat, Loki, has had like a really big impact on the Titans defense as well.
Yeah, I mean, good for him. There are many red flags, and then one that kind of popped up right before the draft.
Yeah,
but for him to be playing well, awesome. I guess happy to see it. You could skip a week, that'd be great. But yeah, good. Yeah, very scary. I don't think you should be trying to go gap against Sweat. I don't know how that would go for the current players. Is Sam Mustipher more of a power guy? I don't know. But even Sebastian Joseph Day is having a mild career resurgent season. Which is weird, because I guess with Brandon Staley, he had a good season. And then with him again, he was But without him again, he's good. I don't know. But he's playing better. So good for him. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to them playing this interior this week.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, we're kind of on the same page there. So before we get to our last segments here, let's get to some of these super chats that are here. We do really appreciate you guys sending them in as always. Athir says that the Chargers D is laughing hot. Let's go. I assume this was about the Thursday night game, but we appreciate the super chat regardless. It looked like the Chargers defense is obviously on the rise right now, so it's been great to watch.
Are they laughing? I don't know. Both teams just scored 70 points together, so I don't know how stoked I am.
Yeah. It's certainly their biggest test of the season so far, those two games. Theo was back in here and said that his Sunday prediction is that Ladd has 3 touchdowns and the Chargers win 34-6.
He'll have 3 touchdowns if I attend another wedding. Otherwise, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I'll be at Disneyland, so maybe that counts. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, that'll be the Sam Mustipher resurgence game. You'll miss that one.
Yeah, yeah. Miguel says that Brendan Rice apparently broke something. I don't think that's been official. Jim Harbaugh did say he expects him to return later on in the season, although there is that rule about X amount of activations for the team. I don't know how many the Chargers are going to be able to have, but it sounds like Brendan Rice is going to be healthy at some point down the road.
Yeah, I hope so. Obviously, it's the shoulder. I didn't hear anything about a break though, but I guess I can. I typed in Brendan Rice break like an idiot. It's just gonna come up with broken tackles. So never mind. I'm not even looking it up anymore.
Maybe he posted something on Instagram or something, and we missed it.
Or maybe he means Simi. Maybe he saw the Simi injury.
Yeah, I don't know. If Miguel, if you're in here, feel free to clarify. That would be great. I don't know. We haven't seen anything official about Brennan, but Chris Mesa in here sent a super sticker and then has a question as well. So we appreciate him. How do you feel about the Chargers working on DJ Chark this weekend? Can he change the momentum, and do you believe he will be a difference maker?
Okay, let me start with every question there. How do I feel about the Chargers working on him this weekend? Great. He was my excited to see segment guy, so I'm excited there. Can he change the momentum? Can he be a difference maker? I don't know how to answer that question. Yes, he can be a difference maker. Yes. I believe if they stick to what they've been trying to do, I think he can, because he fits everything they want to do without having to change anything. They attacked the boundary quite a bit last week, and Palmer isn't the faster guy. Great back shoulder catch, awesome. But they want to try to push it and have the guy, separate further down the field, contested catch, whatever. So yeah, I think every little bit counts. I think the one Dobbins run for a touchdown, or the couple big runs that he had, that makes a difference. Chark having one big play, that'll make a difference in the fourth quarter or in the second half. So sure.
Yeah, difference maker I think is probably a stretch, but he can definitely help. I think the Chargers have just kind of collected a group of pass catchers who are all just kind of like solid NFL players, and Ladd I think can become a difference maker and has been a difference maker in some of their games, but Chark just feels kind of like a specific role that they don't really have right now, and that role can really be valuable to this offense. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Jacob called him DJ Charmander, which I think is funny.
Sure.
All right, last segment here. We'll do X Factors and then game picks. Tyler, who is your X Factor of the week?
Well, based on the way it's trending, it has been Sam Mustipher, and I genuinely say that because Trey Pipkins had a bad week against the Browns. It was not pretty, and it can get 3 times worse. I'll quantify it with an imaginary number. It can get 3 times worse if it looks like it did against the Chiefs with Mustipher out there. If they decide to go after him and it's awful, tough game. I see like a Cardinals game happening for the Chargers. Maybe not in the results, but in the terms of points scored. And the Titans have a better defense. If they hold up, it means okay. Chargers might be okay. But if it's an Avalanche game, if it's the Senio Calamete of 2024 2.0, then we're SOL.
Yeah, I don't really understand like what happened here with the interior group, because Jamari was like unquestioning the guy, and then like Foster Sorrell was getting reps, and then like Brendan Hymas was the unquestioned center, and now all of a sudden like Sam Mustipher is the main swing interior guy. So I don't really understand how we got here, but I do want to say that Trey, I think he had a down week overall. I would much rather have him out there than Sam Mustipher. So this is a group where we're all pretty nervous about. But if you're talking about Sam Mustipher or whoever they put in there, like it's going to be a downgrade. Like I just don't love where the Chargers' depth is at on the interior offensive line. I think Trey is a fine backup tackle option, but it's just not in a great spot right now. So if he plays well, Sam Mustipher, that is like awesome. Then I will come on here, and the next time I'm on, because I'm not going to be on Sunday, but I will get on the podcast and be like, Sam Mustipher, great job. So hopefully that is the case.
Yep, would be nice.
So I wanted to find a way to talk about the chances of this being another turnover game. Will Levis did practice in full today. If you haven't watched much of Will Levis, you're really missing out because he has some of the funniest moments from any quarterback in the league.
Yes.
He has a tremendously high pressure to sack rate, which will contribute to, I think, a potentially big Khalil Mack game or Thule game or whoever you want to pick. And it could contribute again to a multiple interception game from this Chargers defense. So we've obviously saw the Chargers have 3 turnovers last week, and we know that turnovers can be contagious, as Jim Harbaugh himself talked about with the olive jar. And once you pluck one out, they all kind of like start popping out. So he described it much funnier way. If you missed that clip, you should go check it out because it is honestly hilarious. But I think this defense is just kind of vibing really well right now, especially the secondary. And, during the mini movie, Tarheeb still gets his interception and then he comes back and he's yelling at Cam Hart, your turn next. Like, it's just a really great vibe with the secondary. Derwin's playing great. Elijah Molden's playing great. The 2 rookies are fantastic. Even Eli Apple almost had an interception this week. He was right there in position to get it. And then Morgan Fox hits the ball. So I think if Will Levis plays, and we don't know if he's going to or not, but if Will Levis plays, this has a chance to be a significant turnover performance, sack performance from the defense, and just kind of carry some momentum into their much more difficult stretch. If Mason Rudolph plays, he has a much lower pressure to sack percentage. It's like 11%. So he's getting the ball out quick and he's not really scrambling. So he's kind of a pocket presence, and his turnover worthy play percentage is like 100% fewer than Will Levis's. So their offense is much more safe with Mason Rudolph in, but it's much more volatile with Will Levis in. So if they are able to mess with him a bit, as they have done, this could be a big time defensive performance for sure.
I like it. Yes, they had 3 or 4 interceptions last game.
3. But they dropped 1.
Yeah.
And then they were in position for another 2. And yeah, so they could have had like 5 or 6.
All right. More or less 2.5 interceptions this week. What are we thinking?
If Levis plays, 2.5 is a lot.
3.5 sack fumbles and interceptions.
Okay, I like that. If Will Levis plays, I will take more than that.
Okay, I'll go more.
If Mason Rudolph plays, I'll take less because he's been much better at not committing errors.
Cool.
So yeah. All right, Tyler, what are your final thoughts and game pick for this week as the Chargers prepare for the Tennessee Titans?
The Titans defense is very respectable, but overall they're kind of doo-doo. They're missing a couple of players this week. It sounds like some key ones. Some guys are trending the wrong way for the Titans, which makes me feel better. I've seen this Chargers team. Not this Chargers team. I've seen the Chargers lose to the Titans several times when they shouldn't have, including last year, which has really just killed the entire season for us. But I think they'll pull it off. I am confident the Chargers will win. Mack not playing might make things a bit trickier on defense, but overall, 20-13 Chargers win. Just kind of one of those games.
That's fair. Kinzel points out that apparently from the photos from practice, Jamari and Mustapher have been rotating at guard today. So
sure,
we'll see. Maybe a little bit mini competition. Yeah, if Khalil doesn't play, I think that changes my overall expectation, but I do expect the Chargers to win. Like I mentioned, I think this has a significant chance to be a Khalil Mack explosion game if he is able to play. The Chargers defense overall, I think, is going to be very motivated. They have several former Tennessee Titans on the roster, in particular Elijah Molden, who was obviously on the Titans this particular year. So I think the defense, even if Khalil does not play, is just going to be in a really, really good vibe. It's going to be, they're going to have a great plan. The Titans don't really have any playmaker where I'm like super scared of it on offense. They obviously traded DeAndre Hopkins, which is super cool. You traded him to the Chiefs. We really appreciate that. Tony Pollard is banged up. I
Mhm.
honestly kind of forgot that they have Joshua Kelly is on their practice squad. That would
Oh,
be kind of
snap.
funny
I didn't know that.
continuing, the Chargers Titans crossover. So I think this is a game where the Chargers, it's not a get right game because I don't know if the offensive matchup is that positive, but I kind of envision a pretty similar script to last week if Khalil can play, where
Yeah.
you're up, 20-3, you maybe win like 27-10, and you just feel great vibes heading into the Bengals game. If Khalil doesn't play, maybe that becomes like a 20-13 game like you predicted. Maybe it's a 23-10 game, but Khalil will have a significant impact in this one. So if he plays, I will say my prediction will be 27-9. I think they hold them out of a touchdown. But if Khalil does not play, I will say 23-13.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Chargers are in a good spot, playing at home. Titans are banged up. People are pointing out in the chat, of course, that their center Cushionberry is on IR. I don't think Spears is playing. He's been out. I don't know if he's returning. But my boy Tyjae Spears.
Yes,
I almost said he was LB2 over Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'm glad I changed my mind right before we put our final rankings out.
Those two players are sick, man. Yeah. Great super chat here from Richard to close us out. He says, "Go Bolts! I just bought a Khalil Mack jersey. This is only the second Chargers jersey he's ever owned outside of Herbert. That's pretty cool, man. That is a great sign." He wants to know specifically, what are the odds we re-sign Mack and keep him around until he retires? He's a dog, he says.
I think there's almost a guarantee he's back with the Chargers next year, unless he doesn't want to be here. I don't see why he wouldn't want to, considering the way the team will be trending next year. But you never know. I don't know. Maybe he wants to go to play for the Chiefs or something. I don't know. Until he retires, I don't know, but that would be great. And I do think that my next jersey will be Khalil Mack. If they give him some sort of new contract, I think he'll be my next jersey.
Yeah, if you listen to the way that he's talked about this team, like Omar Navarro had a great piece for him on the Chargers website today. He truly is, like, at least publicly, he's saying that he believes in this franchise. He believes in Jim Harbaugh. He believes in Justin Herbert. He thinks that they can really have the chance to do something special here. You watch him in that interview with JJ Watt and just lights up about talking about Ben Herbert, and he lights up about talking about Jim Harbaugh, and like he's having a great time, being around this franchise. So I think there's a good chance that he signs maybe like a 2-year contract in the offseason.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's enough for Khalil to then like retire. Like eventually he's going to start slowing down. I hope not anytime soon. And we haven't really seen those signs yet, but Khalil kind of strikes me as a guy who's going to try and stick around in the NFL as long as he can. In that same quote, he says that he works so hard because in his head, he's still just like a broke kid in Florida, basically. And he's still trying to just like keep that mindset. So I don't know if retirement in LA is possible, but I do believe there's a very, very good chance that he is re-signed in the offseason to a 2-year, maybe a 3-year contract.
Yeah, and then if he loves being here, it's just you kind of just work your way through the 1 year, 2 year, whatever deals the rest of the way. Kind of like Calais Campbell, I suppose. And he's not Calais Campbell's age by any means, but when Calais Campbell's 38, Mack is 33.
I believe so, yeah.
We're getting, towards that same kind of trend for him. And he went to the Ravens. So it was
And Khalil, like his main thing is that he wants to obviously win a Super Bowl. Like it's the main thing driving him. And publicly he's saying that he believes this is the place where he thinks he has the best chance to do it. So I think that says a lot about what Jim Harbaugh has brought to this table. And if you're Khalil, you're probably not in the stage of your career where you want to ring chase quite yet. So you love being in LA, you love playing for Jim Harbaugh, you believe in Justin Herbert that way. I'd kind of see him sticking around for 2-3 years, and we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, I mean, Derek Carr had some good football, but he watched Derek Carr. He watched whatever happened to the Bears. Now he's here with Herbert. Like, okay, let's stick with that. Jim Harbaugh will stick with that. They can obviously pay him. That's not an issue. He's been great buddies with, guys like Joey Bosa and Thule and all these guys. Gets to stick it to the Raiders several times a year. I think it's just perfect. And I know like this year wasn't exactly the all-in year, but the next couple of years are that window. So like you said, 2-year deal. And then after that, if the Chargers are just completely unsuccessful, then maybe he ring chases, but I think he'll stick around for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. He's sat through the Derek Carr, Jack Del Rio era, and then Mitch Trubisky and Matt Nagy.
Woo!
Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh is probably like and he's been healthy here too. Yeah. So I think there's a good chance. Buying a Khalil Mack jersey, I think, is a great decision from anybody. Truly one of my favorite Chargers players that I've ever had the chance to watch, and just like it's so funny looking back at that trade and Telesco and Brandon Staley being able to swing that trade, and it's potentially like the best thing from the Brandon Staley era was the trade for Khalil Mack. So just the way that he goes about his business, the way that the effort that he plays with, it's just, the leadership stories we've all heard. Khalil Mack is one of my favorite players. And so buying a jersey from Khalil, I think is a great choice for anybody. Even if he leaves in the offseason, which I don't think it's possible. I still think having a Khalil Mack jersey is a great purchase, just because he's been that kind of influence on the Chargers the last 3 years. Yeah, I agree. All right. Great episode today, even though not a ton of excitement about this matchup, it seems like. The Titans are kind of struggling, but fun conversations today. We appreciate you guys in the chat. Appreciate the super chats as always. I am not going to be here on Sunday. Like I said, I will be at Disneyland with my wife, and we're going to have a fun time. I'm going to be in line watching the game as much as I can. And Tyler is going to be here with somebody else on Sunday to recap the game. And then I will be back with Tyler on Tuesday for our usual film review. So should be a good time. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, like, review, comment, all that good stuff does help continue to grow the show. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. We'll see you next time. Bolt up.